Do I think LRZ or somebody like that can make the team without special teams? Absolutely. But
I don't know.
No,
that's going to be his bread and butter.
I think the way it's set, though, this season, that if he just struggled with special teams, I still don't know if they'd cut him. I still think they could leave him on as a gadget kind of guy and just let him figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I think
that one position is not that big of a deal.
Yes and no. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if he was not a special teamer and he could not do a lot of different things for you, I don't think it's very likely he would make the squad. There's no way they would put this guy on the roster as just a slot receiver or a running back if he didn't offer you all of that on special teams, because I feel like that's him right now. I feel like that's basically what he is right now. He offers you being able to kick the ball, being able to return the ball. Like, he doesn't offer you running good routes yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got a lot to learn. I think that's his bread and butter, man. I don't see him making the team if they were to decide not to use him for special teams. I think that's how he's going to make the squad.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that, but if even, like, say, for example, Nico Remigio was to beat him out, to me, it's harder for Nico. I don't care how many special teams battles he's leading. It's tougher for him to make it because he's got to crack into a top 6 wide receiver, and that's tough. Whereas LRZ, we don't have hardly any depth there at running back right now.
I think there's enough to where you wouldn't have to take a guy that don't even know what he's doing just yet, essentially.
Steve, don't hate on LRZ.
I'm not, but I mean, he's told us that straight from his mouth. Like, I'm just now learning the game. I got a long way to freaking go.
His mother told us that too. Julia says, if Wentz goes off in the preseason and teams offer you a draft pick for him, are you taking it? Abso-freaking-lutely. When you've got a team built like we do, where you've got to have good young pieces year in and year out to compete. Not to compete, but to continue at that high level, like Brett Veach has had to do with overhauling certain rooms. Yeah, I do it because, honestly, I think they could find somebody else that could come in and get prepared in time.
Yeah,
I really do.
No, but I'm with you, man. It's like, it's nice to have a decent backup quarterback. And, like, I'll tell you this, I would feel a hell of a lot more comfortable if Carson Wentz has to come in as opposed to Blaine Gabbert last year. Was I worried about Blaine Gabbert? Not necessarily, but I do think Carson Wentz is a better all-around just athlete than Blaine Gabbert.
Blaine Gabbert played in what? One game last year? Like some significant time. It was week 17, right?
Yeah, it was the last game of the season.
And he actually threw the ball, and that was when McCole Hardman just kind of quit running on it.
I don't know. Like, we've always had, like, decent backups. Like, we had Matt Moore, Chad Henne. Like, they could always come in and kind of, right the ship a little bit, I guess you could say. Blaine Gabbert was kind of fell into that same category, but I think Carson Wentz is a step up from right the ship. Yeah. I think Carson Wentz is a quarterback. He was very good at one point. I mean, hell, he had the Eagles 13-3 going into the playoffs before he got hurt, and I think they ended up winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. But, I mean, he fell off after that. He didn't quite recover from his injuries that great. But I do think Carson Wentz is decent. Now, here's the thing about it. After saying that, I would trade him for any draft pick. I mean, if you're going to get some kind of draft capital out of your backup, I think you go ahead and you do it, right? Like you said, you can get somebody to fill that role.
Melissa's not filling it.
Nay. I will not get rid of Prince Harry.
You got to think for Prince Harry, right? And, yeah. I mean, Carson's he's like the Midwestern Prince Harry. I get it.
Mike, is that something that you think they thought about when they picked up Carson Wentz? Was, hey, this is a guy that he is a competent quarterback. He had a hard way to go after he come back from his injuries. But do you think they looked at it that way, like, what if we get this guy going? Because you've mentioned this before. You asked why they didn't take people and develop them and trade them off. Because with a team that develops quarterbacks, or a coach like Andy Reid that develops quarterbacks so well, why don't they get the Trey Lance or the failing Justin Fields or whoever it might be?
Zach Wilson, when that was a thing.
And get them up to par, get them good, and then ship them out for draft capital or whatever it might be. You've talked about that. Do you think that's what Brett Veach was thinking with this? Like, hey, we have a pretty decent quarterback.
Do you think Brett Veach heard me? Do you think Brett Veach finally listened to something I said?
Absolutely not.
I do not either. But here's what I'll say. I wish he would do that because I think it's smart. You've seen the Patriots do that through the Tom Brady dynasties.
Yeah, they got us with Matt Castle.
They got Matt Castle out of there. They got Jimmy G out of there. And all these guys went somewhere else and kind of
Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Brissett they got out of there.
I feel like.
They were grabbing them and developing them. And look, they don't develop quarterbacks. They did not develop quarterbacks as well as Andy Reid does.
No.
It don't.
Absolutely not.
And the fact that you can sit on a team with championship pedigree behind the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
The greatest.
The greatest.
The greatest.
The greatest.
Of all freaking time.
And you're going to get that quarterback to come into your franchise and possibly lead you? But look, I don't think that's what they're doing with Carson Wentz. I honestly just think Carson Wentz was that guy.
It wasn't
we were trying to get him to do it last year.
Yeah, I know. But do you not think it was like kind of a two-way thing? Like, hey, we got a good backup quarterback, but also if like that situation came up.
I mean, I think they'll listen to trade offers. I don't know how much smoke, or not smoke, I don't know how much noise was behind Carson Wentz in the offseason. You know, like how much was he sought after? I really don't know that. So does he have much trade value? And if you come out and kill it in the preseason, you're also beating up on third and fourth stringers.
Well, obviously you don't get a guy that already has a trade value. You get one that
for
value.
Sure.
You get one that doesn't necessarily, and then you make it that way. I think that's kind of the idea behind that.
Tommy says, how many TDs do you see Mahomes throwing this year? And I feel like he could do 50 again. We talked about this a little bit on the last stream we did, and we both said we think he's going 5,050.
Yeah, I think this is the year that he replicates season number 2.
I think the floor on him is, 4,500 yards and 40 touchdowns? I honestly think that might be the floor.
I mean, you have to think, Patrick Mahomes had a big-time down year last year. The whole offense was stagnant and not great, and they still won a freaking Super Bowl. Now he's got some pieces in place.
Patrick Mahomes is just nasty.
J-Mac's going with 5s across the board, baby. Yeah, this season's going to be exciting. Like, they've put some pieces in place for Mahomes, actually gave him some weapons. You got some new blood out there, like not only just like your free agent, but you got the rookies too, Xavier Worthy, Jared Wiley. I think it's going to be fun to see how this all comes together. And you have to think, if these guys pop off early, Rashee Rice is in his second season coming up. We're going to have like several years ahead of us that Patrick Mahomes is going to have these guys as toys on the offense.
Yeah. Dude, Patrick Mahomes is he's going to eat this year, dude. I just don't even know. In my opinion, this is going to be one of the most lethal offenses that we've seen. And maybe I'm just a little too horned. Maybe the Blue Chew has kicked in too hard tonight. I don't know. There could always have that letdown, right?